Again, Erev Shabbos, everybody. Welcome to Jerry's Parsha Ponderings for Parsha Tzaveh. Parsha Tzaveh is a very unique Parsha, and it is unique in that it is the only Parsha since the introduction of Moshe Rabbeinu that does not mention Moshe Rabbeinu. It starts with V'ata Tetzaveh et Bnei Yisrael. You will command Bnei Yisrael. V'yikchu elecha shemen zayit zach, and they will bring to you or take for you a v'yikchu elecha truma, v'yikchu li truma, v'yikchu elecha shemen zayit zach katit la'maor. But nowhere in the parsha is Moshe Rabbeinu mentioned by name. Now, why is that? Well, we know that in next week's parsha, in Kitisa, we deal with the Chet HaEgel. And in the Chet HaEgel, when Moshe is begging HaKadosh Baruch Hu to spare Am Yisrael, he says, forgive them, v'im lo macheni na misifracha asher katavta. And if you will not forgive them, wipe me out from your book. Your book in this case being the 5 books of Moses, the Torah, the Pentateuch, whatever you want to call it, the Torah. And because of that, even though Hashem, Baruch Hashem, forgave us, Baruch Hashem, that Hashem forgave us, Moshe's name was left out of one parsha. Obviously, we're not talking about Sefer Bereshit, but from Sefer Shemot through Devarim, this is the only parsha in which his name does not. So, it begs the question, if Hashem did forgive us, why was Moshe's name left out of this parsha? And that is because whenever a chacham or a great person says something, even in this particular case where it didn't actually come to pass, nonetheless, his words are meaningful. And because his words are meaningful, there is just a slight hint to the macheni na misifracha, the wipe me out of your book. Great. What do we learn from this? Well, I would venture to say that one of the things we learn from this, and the Gemara brings it down as well, watch what you say. You know, they always say, Al tiftach pela satan. Don't open up your mouth to the satan, to the evil urge, to Satan, to the evil one. But, you know, there's an old adage that says the reason that the tongue has 2 guards to it, the teeth and the lips, is because it's something that requires guarding. We have to be very careful how we use our words, and we are right now in the middle of what will probably wind up to be World War III. Certainly a huge war in the Middle East. We have Russia battling Ukraine, and we have Israel versus Hamas, and the Houthis in the south, and Hezbollah in the north, and all sorts of things going on worldwide, China and Taiwan, and of course, our buddies over in Iran. But in the days leading up to October 7th, to the massacre, to the Black Sabbath massacre, not Ozzy's Black Sabbath, but the massacre, the mood in Israel was a very contentious one. There was great infighting, as we know, regarding the judicial reform matter as well as other matters. the Never Bibi crowd, which is similar to the Never Trump crowd, and the Rock Bibi crowd, and it was just awful. And we see where these things can lead. In a way, we were spared a civil war by having a war with Hamas. That is very small consolation. But we have to realize that words matter, and they matter in how we address one another, and they matter in what we put out there on social media and on the airwaves in general, on YouTube. You have to be very careful. I mean, especially when a Yid is talking about another Yid, we have to watch our tongue. Watch. People are people. We're all carbon-based life forms, and we're all breathing the same air. I mean, gotta really think. Yeah. Years ago, my dad gave me a little something he found in a newspaper, and it said, "Make sure brain is in gear before engaging mouth." I think that's a very important lesson, because we see that even Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest of the great, the greatest prophet who ever lived, had his name removed from one parsha, from one section of the Torah, because he said Macheni na misifra. Of the priestly garments that we learn about in this week's parsha, the Bigdei Kahuna, perhaps the most interesting one is the Choshen, the breastplate. And I have an image up here of the Choshen, and we see that in the Choshen, the names of all the tribes of Israel were together on the heart of the high priest, of the Kohen Gadol. When our son Dovi picked out a talis and tefillin bag when he became bar mitzvah, he picked one out with the colors of the Choshen on it, with the image of the Choshen, of the breastplate, because he said he loved how all of Bnei Yisrael were together on the Choshen HaMishpat. And this is another important lesson from this week's parsha. We need to be echad v'yachid, ki ish echad b'leiv echad, like one person with one heart. We are alone in the world, people. I mean, and if you needed a reminder, this is probably the most in-your-face we have seen anti-Semitism since the Holocaust. In many ways, it's even worse. Even worse. And I'm not numbers, obviously, but the fact that it's out there, it's on YouTube, it's on social media, people are getting canceled left, right, and center. Tiffany Haddish, a black Jewish comedian on her way to Israel, posted herself on the plane going to Israel, and this is a famous person, canceled left, right, got some of the most vile, anti-Semitic, racist, just because she was going to Israel. And this during Black History. I mean, the Nazis, Yamach Shemam V'Zichram, tried to hide it. You know, if you remember, later President Eisenhower said when he walked into Bergen-Belsen, "You better videotape this, because one day some son of a bitch is going to say it didn't happen." Those were his words, which is why I quote them verbatim. Boy, was he right. And we see today that anti-Semitism is in your face. We have to hold on to one another and support one another and be united in this struggle. Because all we have is one another and God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The first pasuk in this week's parsha says that the Bnei Yisrael will take for Moshe and bring to him pure olive oil, beaten, katit. How do you make olive oil? You pound it. You pound the olives and you squeeze out the olive oil. Not Popeye's olive oil, but olive oil. And the way to make olive oil is by pressing. Rabosai, we're being pressed. Ooh ha. We're being pressed in a way that we haven't been pressed in this generation ever. And not since the last generation, not since the greatest generation, are we being pressed like this. What did they use the oil for? For the light. You had to pound it and press it and beat it, and then it shone. It shone forth. Kiner mitzvah v'torah or. When Prime Minister Netanyahu, years and years ago, before he was Prime Minister, went to address the UN, he went then to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Kodesh Levracha Schose Yagen Aleinu, the Heilige Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe told him as he was going in to address the UN, you're going into a place of terrible darkness. Be the light. As the Rebbe told Bibi, we have to be the light. And to be the light, we have to go through some pressing times. So just realize that it's always darkest before dawn. These are some dark and pressing times. But the light is just around the corner. Maran and Rabbi Sai, have an absolutely wonderful Shabbos. Enjoy and remember, be the light. Agit gesundte Shabbos. Hopefully, see you back here next week. Shabbat Shalom.